Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Merrick Bennett. It is Comics Workshop over at Comics Workshop headquarters. I'm all bundled up because it's chilly here today in New Hampshire. It's winter time, but I do have some big plans for vacation week. I've got some index cards here on my desk, little 3x5 index cards. I'll switch over to my desktop cam here so you can see. And we're going to be making little tiny books all week long. Just using our imaginations, creating some stories, and discovering some new worlds. So I'll show you how we do that today, and we'll do a little intro to these. Many, many thanks to Kimball-Jenkins School of Art for hosting these camps and suggesting the idea. And well, we've been making a lot of books lately, so I'll show you how to do them, and then I'll show you some of the ones we have. And you can follow along with whatever materials you have at home. If you have 3x5 index cards or something like that, that's great. If you have a pencil and a black pen, I recommend using that. You may also have a bunch of markers that you want to use, or crayons, or any kind of art supplies. The basic idea here, though, is that we're going to make little books, tiny, I'm calling them micro books, teeny tiny books, cat-sized books, whatever you want to think of them as. So basically, if we take a card and we fold it in half, we get sort of a book shape, but it's more like a greeting card. It's 4 pages, right? Folding it in half gives you 4 pages because it cuts either side in half. So if we put 2 cards together, then we get, let me fold this one separately. You can stack them together and fold them together. But there we go. Now we have an 8-page book, and that starts to become a book. Right. Today I'm going to do a real simple 8-page. Well, maybe we'll do 8 pages here. And then I got a bunch of index cards around the holidays because I knew I'd be at home a lot and I'll be making a lot of books. I got some colored index cards. Let's choose a pink one. And I'm going to fold that in half to make the cover. And you'll see this book shape starting to take shape here. So now we had 8 pages in the middle here. We have a cover on it. That's going to give us 12 pages total, but it's all still separate cards, right? So the other thing I'm going to use this week in my supplies is I have a stapler here, right? And I'm going to come in here and drop a staple right on the spine of that book there. Oh, I missed it slightly, but it's close enough for this book, I think. And then I should be able to open it up and read it. If it's not quite opening up there, you know what? Beginner's bad luck. I'm going to redo that staple because it wasn't quite on the spine. It's fine to go back in and re-aim. That's right on the spine. There we go. All right, so now I have a 12-page little book. And the cool thing about these, I've been making a lot of blank books. And then, like, here's one I made just earlier, and here's another one, a green one. Then I tuck them in my pocket. And whenever I get an idea for a story, I have a little book ready to take that story and write it into. The other thing this does is having only 8 or 12 or 16 pages means I have to be really clear with my story, and it's really tiny, right? I don't have a huge page to fill. So I put one little idea on each page. In fact, for me, what really makes this a micro book is that it's so small, I might not even write the words in. Sometimes I just write little scribbles and lines and let people imagine what the words are. Sort of like you see a book in the distance, or you flip through a book at arm's length and you don't quite read it. I'll show you what I mean. So let's make this a chapter book that somebody could sit down. It could be like a make-believe cat-sized chapter book. And maybe it'll be a book about making other books. So I always say with my comics that I start with pencil and then I go over the pencil and ink. With these books, I think I'm going to just directly ink it. You can always draw in pencil, or you can always draw in pencil and then ink it, or you can start directly in ink. The thing is, be ready. If you start in ink, you're going to make some mistake and you'll have to work that into the story somehow, which is kind of fun. I really like that. That feels like tightrope walking without a net. Let's wait on the cover. I always do my cover last. So maybe to start off the book, it'll look like this. I'll just say chapter 1. And the really cool thing about doing these micro books is obviously I'm not going to start writing really tiny here. I guess I could get a really fine pen and do that. But for me, it's kind of more fun to imagine. Let's do like lines for text. And this is, I've been drawing a lot of these with the kids in the family here. My niece and nephew and I have been drawing them. And if you imagine, if you see a chapter written on that page and you imagine there's a story there, then you might be able to read it back to me. But you're going to need a little help. So I'll put a picture up here, maybe a little illustration. And I have to do it really tiny. I'm going to do my little mouse character. Put my mouse at a tabletop. So I just kind of use this book to imagine. Get my pen and a little tiny book. Maybe he's thinking here. Maybe he's picking his nose. I don't know. It's hard to tell with these mice here. There we go. So mouse is going to draw a book, and that's what's going to become chapter 1. It's really cool to kind of imagine what might be happening in this story. And maybe chapter 1 continues on to here. It's kind of fun to have this little tiny book where I don't actually have to write out the story. I can just use the book to get my imagination going. Now I'm going to give another illustration here for chapter 2. I think I'll just do that. Each page will have a little different chapter. Look at that. There's chapter 2 happening already on the page. And I'm zipping ahead into chapter 2. So I think by chapter 2, let's see, this mouse here, who's writing this book in chapter 1, is probably going to be surrounded by books that they have written. So maybe I'll do like, I'll put a stack of books up here. I can stack them all up like this. And I'll put a stack of books up here. And I'll make a messy stack falling down over here and another messy stack falling down. And maybe these need to have like writing on all of them. Little scribbles writing. You can't read it because it's too small. Look at that. We're already in chapter 2 of our book. And here this mouse is like, oh no, what's going to happen if I fill up the house with little tiny books? Where will I keep them? Let's just reread this book here. So if I hand this to a reader and they're reading it to me, oh, they'll read chapter 1 and they'll see this mouse is writing. Well, maybe I'll make a little dream bubble here, like the mouse is thinking up all these stories. Dot, 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 dot. I can go back and forth and fix these up. Stars and swirls and scribbles and things the mouse is dreaming up here as they fill up the house with stories. Okay, they've drawn a lot of books here. Where are they going to keep them all? Chapter 3. Let's see, should we start could chapter 2 be shorter? Oh, look at that. My staple is kind of loose here. I'm going to go back and re-engineer this book. This is a crafting camp here. We're going to make a lot of these books. You may find better ways to make them. I think 3 staples should be strong enough for a tiny book like this. Let's see, chapter 1, chapter 2. Remember, I'm not penciling here, so whatever I put down, I've just got to work with. I think chapter 2 can continue on to here. That'll be a full-length chapter 2. There it is. Ends with an exclamation mark because mouse gets an idea. Chapter 3. Now, if I were actually writing out a story here, I'd kind of be focused on getting the writing right, maybe editing it, maybe asking somebody to help me proofread it. This kind of frees me up to think not so much about the words, but to think of like the overall story, right? So I keep needing to review. Okay, mouse is writing. Mouse has way too many books written, stacking, piling up. This is like us at the end of this vacation week. We're going to have so many of these little books done. All right. Puts the pen down. Now mouse is going to go into the next phase. So let's see. We'll do our little border here. Chapter 3 is where mouse, I don't know, I'm just making this up. Let's see. Chapter 3 is where mouse looks a little more relaxed and happy. Actually takes a little tiny cardboard box and draws little eyes on it. There we go. We'll put the stacks of books back here. Stack, 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 stack. Maybe over here. Stack, 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 stack. There we go. And maybe coming out of this box are all these sort of surprise imagination symbols. Like you know that feeling when you're creating something and like all the ideas are swirling around it, like right now. Chapter 3. In chapter 4, how long do we have here? Oh, we're running out. So chapter 4 is going to happen right here. Chapter 3 is our short chapter. Chapter 4. Chapter 4 will be kind of short too. We'll have chapter 5 right here. I'm planning ahead because I see the end of the book coming up with this short 12-page book. But look at that. Chapter 4, that's what happens in chapter 4. And that's where Mouse has this new box. And this is going to be tricky to draw small. This box is, here are the eyes. Mouse drew this face on this box so that the box can actually store all these books. There we go. We'll do the stacks of books. Right. And if I really want to help the reader, I could put titles for all the chapters, like making the box, making the drawing on a box. The box comes to life or something like that. But I might test this out and see if my readers understand it first. Chapter 5, we're steaming along. We're up to chapter 5 already. And here's the writing of chapter 5. You can read it back to me and you can imagine what it says. This is like, remember, when you see a book at arm's length, you can't quite, or across the room, you can't quite read the words, but you know there's a story there, right? Chapter 5, let's see. I'm going to zoom in and show the box. Let's see. I'm drawing small and fast here without a pencil. So this is a little, I try to make it as clear as possible, but it might be a little bit sketchy. The box opens up its mouth and it eats these books. And that's how we'll store those books. Maybe I'll make a sound effect around this. I'll put a couple books in here. It's a book-eating box. And that's how Mouse will store all those books. Maybe I'll make nom, 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 nom. And a little heart because the box is hungry. The box eats up all Mouse's books. Maybe I'll do some writing on there. Yeah, Kimball-Jenkins says there are so many stories to share and remember this year. Yeah, so this is once a made-up story with my little mouse drawing books, right? But also that mouse is me. Like that mouse is you drawing all these books. It's me drawing all my comics this year. And coming up with all these ideas. The desk, my desk at times has been piled up with pages and I got to organize them somewhere. So I create a little friend who can help me organize them, a little character or a little box. And that thing eats all these books, book crumbs all over the place, right? And we just play with these ideas in a way. You can use these to tell stories about your year. You can use these to make predictions about the coming year. Stories you hope will happen, stories you wish had happened. I'm thinking chapter 6 now. I have an idea for chapter 6. So we've gone from this tiny little box to eating all the books to maybe chapter 6 is where this is like Frankenstein's monster. This is where the little box gets out of control. And that's going to push us. I'm always thinking of how to push my reader into the next page or the next book. I'm going to have the box going left to right, pushing into the next page. Maybe the box. I'll show you a box, a sample box that this idea is based on in a moment. Maybe that box is chasing the mouse. I don't want the mouse to look too scared, but I want it to be sort of exciting. Maybe it's like hopping along here and the mouse is running, and I'll just make it say rah, rah. like this creative project this mouse has created is now like is now taken on a life of its own. And we'll write the text for chapter 6 here. I'm not actually writing words. I'm just quickly getting down the suggestion of a chapter. And then that's going to be the full book right there, right? We've just created a full story. And hopefully, maybe if I put in your hands or a young reader's hands, they could read it back to me and tell me, make up a whole story where that text goes. And I'll say to be continued, of course, because all my stories end up continuing usually. This one got a little out of hand for my mouse artist. To be continued, and then I'll say about the author here. And this will be the surprise. I'll put some about the author information here, put a box around it. I'll put a little picture of the author, and you know who the author is going to be, right? The author of this book will be the mouse. There they are. And then on the back, I could put books, other books in this series, other books by this author. Now I do need a title. So here's where I'm going to grab my water-based marker. And we'll call this, what will I call this? I see the mouse creating friends that can store the books. I'll call it Beyond Books, because the mouse goes beyond creating just books. The big thing, that my guiding principle with these tiny books is I don't want to overthink it. I want to just go with my first idea and train my brain to just like grab an idea and run with it and act like it's already a book. Pretend you're just writing down what's already a book, right? And then your readers will sort of take that energy and go with it and really believe there's a story there. Beyond Books, and maybe I'll do like mouse flying through space, creating new books. Creativity, and hunger. With, I don't know, what's this author's name? Maybe Lil Mouse. There we go. Put a couple stars in here so it looks fancy and flashy. I'm not sure where this is going beyond the books. Maybe this mouse and this box monster, you know, maybe there's more of a story to tell. What I'm going to do this week is, maybe I'll put a little, I like to do little things like I'll put the cover of this book right on here. Just get an idea and go with it. What I'm going to do this week is I'll do, you know, at least one of these books every day, just as a warm up for the day, as a creativity Kickstarter. I'll make a little book. I've still got a little room on the inside cover and the back cover to fill in here. And then I'll ask people to read them back to me. We can do a reading time of them. And by the end of the week, I'm going to have a big stack of these books. There'll be all sorts of different books. I'll show you some of the ones I've made, actually. So I mentioned in here taking a box and drawing on it, right? And then the box can eat and store all your books, right? Well, here's an example of a box I made. I've been taking these little, I have all these little tea boxes as I drink tea all winter long by the wood stove. And I noticed that they fit perfectly this size 3x5 folded in half, this size index card book. So that's why I started making a bunch of these little books, because then I can wrap that box. This is what we'll do tomorrow in class. We'll wrap that box in masking tape. We'll take some permanent markers and we'll do a little design around it. And then that thing becomes, that little box becomes a little library that can host all your books. And I'll show you some of the books that we've been making in the past week with the holidays here. So the first one I drew was How to Eat a Cookie. And this is a nonfiction book. You can see it's got a lot of diagrams. It's got a lot of information about how to eat a cookie, and you can probably read it and figure out. There's even a chapter on what not to do when eating a cookie. It's a lot of fun. And actually, I'm posting these over at my Patreon, so we'll post the link to that. That's how to eat a cookie. We've got a potato, the potato. My niece drew this one or started this one. Oh, there's the potato right there. This one is kind of a surreal. This is a really mysterious one. I'm still trying to figure out what goes on in that one. We've got how to pick your nose. Maybe we'll save that one for the Patreon, maybe. Dwarves of Adventures. Oh, Simple Machines. More Dwarves. The Voyage of the Sasquatch. Moby Book. That one looks interesting. Boxhead Families. The Great War. There's all sorts of books here. So once we have a big stack of these books, imagination Kickstarters, creativity warm-ups, we can fill up the library, and then you can tuck a couple blank books. Where are my blank books here? You can tuck a couple blank books in here and share this library with a friend. They can read your books, add their own books, and give it back to you, and you get to read this growing collection. Show you a couple other library designs we can look at this week. This is the Castle Library with a beautiful night sky overhead, and when you open it up, you get to see the little creatures hidden in the windows there. Another night sky up above. Fill that with library books. And then maybe something more like my little mouse artist here. We've got monster designs, right? That look to be little monsters that sit on your shelf. And then when you open them up, you can see their teeth, but you can also see that they can be full of books there. So those are really fun to do. And we'll make all of those. I'll show you how to start those tomorrow. So in the meantime, let's be folding up cards, filling them up with stories that write themselves. Just go with your first idea and see what happens by the end of it. You can do 8-page books, 12-page books, 16-page books. I think they're always going to be a multiple of 4 because we're folding like this. And use whatever materials you want. I recommend a stapler. But you can, maybe there's other ways that you combine these. You can experiment and try your own ways. And then post some of your, post what happens. You can take a little snapshot of your book as you read through it, and you can post it for us over at the Kimball-Jenkins page. I'm looking forward to a full week of bookmaking. We've already gone beyond here, and I'll work on volume 2 of that. I will be posting more, of course, as we go. We'll see you Tuesday at 10 a.m. Is our next scheduled time. But if you head over to the Patreon, I'll be posting more of these books and some other materials about how to make this stuff. Looking forward to drawing with you all week. Thanks to Kimball-Jenkins for making this possible. Thanks for joining us this morning. Yep, thanks for comments, folks. I will get to those comments and we'll post some links. And let me know if you have a special request too of like a book design. I've got a lot of book designs here, but we have some blank boxes that we can turn into anything here. So I'm looking for ideas too. Feel free to post requests and we'll see what we come up with working together this week. All right, folks, talk to you soon. Be in touch. Have a great week drawing your book.